Welcome back to the channel, guys. What we're going to do today is replace some of these manky, old, hard, cracked, leaking rubber oil pipes. In fact, we're going to change them all and we're going to convert the bike to braided hoses with AN6 connections, all in black. I mean, why not add a little bit more confusion and expense to the project? Seems logical to me. So that's what we're going to do today, guys, as well as cleaning up the rear end, sorting out some of this wiring, maybe do a bit on the gearbox as well at the same time, ready to go back in. Yeah, we're just cracking on and getting jobs ticked off the list. So I'm Dino, this is Patch's Repair Shop. This is my 1983 Harley Davidson ongoing project. Smash that subscribe button, hit like, drop us a comment when you see something, and I'll crack on, shall I? Right, so where I left you last week, guys, was with this setup. Get your words out, Dino. So let me show you what we've done. So the bearings were knocked in, but they needed squaring up. They needed bringing to the right position, basically. So that's been done off a camera. I also left you with one of these, and a shout out to my friend Chris, who very, very quickly jumped on it. Came out of a piece of material, so off camera, I've made two of these. So where these go, guys, can't speak today, is inside these bearings. If you didn't watch last week, so these go inside the bearings which we've pushed into our newly powder coated swing arm. This fits over our newly powder coated gearbox casing, and then we can pop our spindle through like so, and pretty much job done for this. I've got to fit it in the frame. Make sure everything's nice, fitting nice. Might have to touch off the ends of the adapters that we made in the lathe, but I don't want to go too far at the moment, so we'll try that in a minute. But for this bit, we'll call that job done, guys. Okay. Now, the other thing that I need to look at is the other part that we was doing last week, which is this part, guys. So the inner primary drive cover, we've got this. Let's get it a bit more in shot for you. If you haven't watched last week, we've got this spindle hole here for the gear linkage. Here is a new spindle. This has got a steel insert in it. Maybe that's from the factory, maybe it isn't. Doesn't look factory to me. And then there's some Harley Davidson bushes, small bushes, one each end, and then the shaft fits in. Now, this has always rattled around like nobody's business. Okay, nobody wants to hear that. So after, as you guys know, because you probably watched last week, we've ordered all the Harley Davidson bushes under the sun. They just didn't work. They was always the wrong size, which does make me think that somebody's put that steel bush in there to sort a problem out. So it's taken me a little bit of time to sort this one out. As one of my regular watchers pointed out, I should have really been using a bore gauge in here and then measuring the bore gauge with my micrometer to get the right diameter. I don't have any bore gauges. I do now, but I didn't then, and the ones I've ordered haven't arrived. But I ended up measuring it in 4 places with the vernier, taking an average, and then using the mic on the lathe to measure it up. And I've created 2 brass bushes. So here are the brass bushes, bigger one for the front, smaller one for the back. These fit the shaft a treat. So like that and like that. But as you know, last week I was probably a bit up against it, weren't really feeling it. I made 4 last week. Today, not feeling as tired, I've still made another 4. That does include these ones. So I've made 8 in total, and 2 are okay. So I found these, for some unknown reason, quite fiddly to make. 2 dimensions that needed to be bob on. So let's get these pushed into place, and then we'll crack on with doing some of these braided oil lines. So the first one is a very nice, easy fit. So we'll probably get some Loctite on there. And then the second one in the back. So I just used a little arbor press, push that in. Look at that. That is lovely now, guys. Let's zoom in. That is absolutely perfect. We've got a grease nipple, so we can pump it full of grease still, and there is zero play in that. I am super duper chuffed with that. I just want to start by getting rid of some cable ties and some wiring. Got the old air pipes for the rear suspension, which are no longer there. I converted it out in one of the other videos to standard shock absorbers. Just the air ones were leaking, so that's part of the old air system. I've kept it all. I've got it all just in case. This bag's got the chain in it, which is also new. That can come off and be cleaned. Old breather pipe can come out that even had a filter in it. Right, so we've got a broken wire there. That came off of there. This goes to the rear brake master cylinder. It's got the world's longest rear braided brake hose on it, so we need to either cut that down and re-crimp it, or we need to get another one. Probably get another one. What have we got up there? Let's get that off of there. Let's get some tools. This is for the oil pressure switch. Replaced this wire last year because it's broken. Right, let's get that loom over there out of the way. Let's pop that brass nut back on there because you know we're going to lose it. And when I'm looking for it, you guys can let me know that I screwed it back on there. Let's get this rear brake line right out of the way. That means we can clean the caliper up on the bench and measure up this brake hose, because it was coiled up and cable tied up. It was so long. So we've got 2 pipes here. These go off to the oil cooler on the front with a push-on fitting for a rubber hose. So I've ordered a universal 5-bar oil cooler, which is what appears to be on the front of this, that I can screw some AN fittings into. So hopefully that's going to work. If you guys know better, let me know in the comments. So that one can go off down to there. We've got, so if you're wondering why things are blanked off and this is your first time here, this bike left the factory with a shovel head, and it's been converted to a 90s Evo engine. So we've got one blanked off here, a breather, or I don't know, possibly a breather. I've got a manual now so that we can work out the oil pipe routing. Let's get something. Not to be used as a pry bar or chisel. Sorry, Snap-on. You see it been blanked off. I'm not a fan of that. So I want to see just how far out with my fittings and adapters I am, and hopefully I'm not too far out. So let's wind all of these out because they are no longer needed. This is going to be fun. Because I would say that they are not going to turn all the way round. Without me taking this cover plate off the front. Let's do that. And make it easier to get to these rear fittings then as well, I think. Wonder how many springs and bits are going to fall out that we don't know how to put back together. Think I need a socket. Oh, it's got a little slot in it, isn't it? Yeah. Oh, look at that. Makes life a little bit easier. So now you can see inside the oil pump, guys, and one very split gasket. Right. So now what we can do, pop this on the bench and see if we can somehow wind these out. This could be an Austin Powers moment. Let's see what else we can get out while we're down here. This is the union that had the pipe on it that was blocked off. So let's see if we can make something up to block it off nicely without having bolts hanging out of rubber pipes. So there's that union out. The next one is this one here, which was connected up to something. If it's oil in or oil out or to the oil filter, I don't know. We need to check all of that. Let's see if we can get that one out. There's that one out as well. Let's get this manky old earth strap off so that we can start cleaning up. Look at this, guys. Look how much dirt is down here. Look at that. Well, I've got this front part of this oil plate in the vise, and as you can see, they're all in the way of one another. Oh, maybe not. Maybe this one is going to undo. Of course it will. I have to get it in there somehow. So that's one. Good. So now they're out. What we can do now is check that the adapters fit. Okay, so let me grab some adapters. So these are a AN6 to 1/8 MPT adapter. So they will screw into there. I suppose you can already see what the issue is here, guys. If I get a second one, yeah, it ain't gonna fit. So what are our options? I suppose I could pop the adapters back in, these right-handers, and that would allow us to use one like that and one like that. So that would work. I could potentially turn the hex part of this down in the lathe. Don't really want to do that. I think that we will probably do it like that. So just in case anybody's panicking, these adapters and the hoses that I've fitted have the same diameter, internal diameter, as the rubber pipes and hoses that came off. Right, so we know that that's going to work. Let's go back to the bike and see what other adapters we've got and what's going to work. Right, so what I'm just trying to achieve here, guys, is just making sure that I've got the right adapters and everything I need. So I've ordered most of the stuff I need from a company called SPD. I think they're in Switzerland or something like that. I know that I now have to pay an annoying customs charge to get it over here. That's wrong. And this is why we are checking these things. And that one is correct. That's good. So that will go in there, and then we've got a series of, let me get some of these. I've got about 1 million packets behind me in a tray. We've got a series of right angle adapters or fittings I should say. So one end on there and then your AN6 pipe in the other end. So that's obviously a 90-degree right angle. And then we've also got some straight couplings as well, like this, which will screw onto there. However, with this particular fitting, we need to be a little bit careful because the plate that the gearbox bolts onto goes here, and I'm unsure as to how much clearance we've got. So let me go and grab the plate and see just what it looks like. Nice re-powder coated plate here, ready for when it's all going back together. So that goes on there, and that leaves just that amount of clearance there. So that's going to be tight, potentially very tight. So I need to wind the fittings all the way in. Let's get this plate out before we scratch it up. Nope. Okay. I wonder if they do whatever adapter size this one is. I need to look it up. I wonder if they do a right angled one. That might help us. Right, so we need a right angled adapter for there. So I'm just going to get this rear brake master cylinder out of the way so that we can get that last oil pump bolt out and we can start doing a little bit of cleaning. And while the degreaser is doing its job and everything is drying or whatever, we need to convert this physical oil tank from a push-on fitting to a bolt-on fitting. Again, I've never done this before, so this could be fun. I've got some welding adapters. Let's see how it goes. Right, let's get that lot out of the way. I think before we do the cleaning, let's get the oil cooler out of the way and we can get these oil cooler pipes off then. So the oil cooler is fairly simple. It's just bolted on around the frame with some brackets that don't appear to be very tight. But we know what Harley's like. They do like to take themselves apart as you ride along. Using the built Hamber degreaser, neat for this example. Right, so while the degreaser is doing its job, so we've done the whole back of the frame, scraped a lot of the muck out. What we've got to do now, guys, is convert this oil tank from having push-on fittings that you can see here. So we're going to chop these off, drill some bigger holes and weld these adapters in, hopefully. I've never done this before. Let's see how it goes. You've got to get these old pipes off. Everything is just covered in oil. And you can, I wonder if you can see on the camera, you can see how bad all these pipes were. So no wonder I had many an oil leak. I'm going to have to whiz this outside for a degrease quickly. And I'm going to have to do a quick test fit on the bike because these two will be okay. They're going to be all right. This one looks like it might be a bit too close to the edge to get a nice seal because it's just on the curve there. So I may just have to slot this on the bike and check that I can move this adapter backwards a little bit, and hopefully that will be okay. I'm not worried about welding them in place, I'm worried about them leaking afterwards. Do I TIG this or do I MIG this? I have pretty much very little experience with my TIG, so I kind of want to do it with the TIG, if that makes sense, to get a bit more experience. I don't know. Right, let me test fit it on the bike, let me give it a clean up, and then bring you back in and we'll chop some pipes off and do some scary stuff. Right, I've given it a clean up, guys. Again, briefly, what we're going to do, this is oil feed to the oil pump. This is the vent to the crankcase on the Evo engine. And this one here is return from the oil filter, which is fitted on the bottom of the gearbox. And we've already got all the AN fittings for the gearbox. If you watch the gearbox strip video, or one of those videos, we test fitted those fittings then. So I've given it a clean up. I now need to do the scary bit and chop these pipes off. So point of no return. Well, no turning back now. So let's clean those up a little bit. We're going to have to obviously open those holes out to fit the new adapters. Good. Right, I did test fit it on the bike. That's what I was going to tell you lot. And I have got scope to move this back a little bit. So on the back of these adapters, we've got a small shoulder. So we need to open the hole out to match that shoulder. You can see where they've brazed those in. Look, that's nice, isn't it? So what size is the shoulder? 20 mil. Right, so we've drilled one out. I'm just going to get rid of the Christa burrs on the inside, hopefully. Right, so we're obviously going to have a good wash out inside the tank when this is done. So that is the first adapter in there. Obviously not welded yet, I'm turning it. So that gives you an idea of what we've got to do. I'm going to have a go at tigging that in place and then move on to the next one. This one here, I didn't think about this. Obviously, because this is an oil vent return from the engine crankcase, there's a pipe inside which needs to sit higher than the oil inside the tank. So I think I've got an idea to get a new pipe inside of there. So we'll have to see if that works out at the same time. Right, so shall I drill the next hole or shall I TIG that in place? I'm going to drill the next hole, I think. Right, so that's two of the fittings drilled out, deburred on the inside. So now we can weld those into place. Hopefully. Shall we MIG or shall we TIG? If I TIG, shall I leave the camera on? Oh, it'll make for some comments, won't it? Let's give it a go. Right, nothing's ever easy, is it, guys? So welding adapter, welding in to the tank. Pretty simple. Adapter goes on the end when it's welded into place. We've got that. Problem is, I've had to make them like this. Looks like a pipe for smoking something, doesn't it? So this is our adapter. I've then taken a bit of steel tube. I've turned the end down in the lathe so that fits the adapter. I weld the adapter to the tube. Turn the weld down so we get our shoulder back so that we can place it inside the tank nicely again. Cut a little triangle out, bend the pipe, weld it back up, clean it up best we can without damaging the side of that. And what that means, guys, is if I put the tank as it sits on the bike, the adapters are obviously sitting at an angle like that. And the pipes that need to be inside go straight up. So that will now sit like that inside of the tank. And that one fits. I've had to use a torch and try and measure it relative to the maximum mark on the dipstick so that the oil is not going to be continuously going back down inside the tube, because that's the whole idea, that it doesn't do that. So that's one made up. So we've got to weld that into the tank. But before we weld that into the tank, I've just got to finish off this one, but I wanted to show you guys first. I'm going to quickly do it off camera because it's taking probably an hour and a half to do each one. So this one's nearly there. I'm going to weld it in place, bend it, and then cut it to length at the top and finish the end off again. Right, so I'm going to crack on and do that. You guys grab yourselves a cup of tea. I'll be back in a minute. Right, so that's the second one of these made, guys. So this one's in. It's in a perfect position. So as the tank sits like that, the oil pipe is now coming up here. And I'm not going to move it to show it to you. And let me see if I can get a torch on it. See if you guys can see it in there. You can just see the tube in there. And then this one is going to fit inside here like this. Again, stopping any oil from hopefully dropping down these two. So sorry a bit of this has been off camera, guys, but I wanted to crack on, and filming it often takes a little bit more time. But you can see what I've done. Okay, so there's the original adapters. Welded a pipe on, well, turned the pipe down, pushed the adapter over the end, MIG'd it up, turned the weld down so it fits back inside the tank, cut a little slot out, bent it so it sits straight inside the tank, welded it back up and cleaned it up. And if none of it leaks, it might be a small miracle. Right, shall we weld this in place then? I am going to do it with my MIG, I think, just because I want to crack on. So right, let's weld it up, shall we, guys? Right, we're done, guys. 2 adapters in with the pipes inside, and we've got our AN fittings on the end now, so that's all done. Welding's not the greatest. I MIG'd it up, quite difficult in the middle when I put the second one in. Fingers crossed it doesn't leak. We've got a final one to put in that I'm going to do off camera because the weld-on adapter hasn't arrived yet. What we're going to do, can't remember what we're going to do. We're going to jet wash the back of the bike off because that degreaser has been soaking in and I've been adding a bit more as we go along. But before I do that, this is the adapter that's screwed into the crankcase that had a bit of pipe on it with a bolt shoved in the end. Okay, so what I'm going to do is cut this in half, or cut it about here. I'm going to weld the end up, tidy it up in the lathe, and then we'll have a nice blank to put in the engine case that hasn't got a horrible rubber pipe and a bolt hanging off of it, and hopefully that won't leak. So let's crack on and do that, shall we? Okay, job done, welded up. Again, you're not going to see it, and it's better than a black pipe hanging down with a bolt hanging out of it, and that ain't going to leak, so we're all good. Right, so I'm going to fit this to the bike, and then we will hit the bike with a jet wash. I think we're nearly at the end, guys, for today, aren't we? Right, so let's pop this one back in here. If we can, making this look like hard work. There we go. Let's put a couple of other, let's mask these off a bit so that we don't spray water all over the engine. Right, guys, I'm gonna get this dried off. Been a fairly productive day, I think. Being bank holiday weekend, we'll do 2 videos for you, you lucky devils. So this one will be out very shortly, and then we'll crack on with the rest of the gearbox and everything in the next one, and hopefully we might be able to get it back in this weekend, but we shall see. So if you made it this far, guys, thank you so much for watching. Smash subscribe, smash comment, like, leave us a comment, I should say, all that good stuff. You know what I'm saying, it's completely free of charge. I'm Dino, this is Patch's Repair Shop, and I'll see you guys very soon.